Well, today we're very fortunate to have a good friend, Loretta Siani, speak to us. Loretta has a Master of Arts degree in communication from Pepperdine. She's also a published author of 4 books and many guided imagery sessions that are available on Amazon and audible.com. She has a private practice through a company called Visionary Communication, where she uses deep focused relaxation to help people undo the inner obstacles that prevent them from maximizing their talent and from living a more empowered, purposeful life. Loretta is going to talk to us this morning on the medicine of mental imagery, undoing the link between stress and illness. We're very happy to have you, Loretta.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I want to give my public thanks to Howard Fredericks, because Howard is the guy who brought me here the very first time and introduced me to everyone. So I really appreciate that, Howard, and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. There was a beggar, an old beggar, who had been sitting in the same spot for over 30 years, begging. And one day, a stranger walked by, and the beggar reached out his tattered baseball cap and said, "Spare any change?" And the stranger said, "I don't have anything for you." And then the stranger noticed that the beggar was sitting on a box. So he said to him, "What's that you're sitting on?" And the beggar said, "Oh, I don't know. It's just an old box. I've been sitting on it for as long as I can remember." And the stranger said, "Well, why don't you have a look inside?" "What's the use?" replied the beggar. "There's nothing in there." The stranger insisted, "Have a look inside." So he found something to pry open the lid, and when he did, to his astonishment and complete delight, he found that the box was filled with gold coins. Well, I am, like that stranger, here today to tell you to look inside. Inside, where you will find a hidden treasure of gold. Now, I'm not here to convince you of this. That would be a losing battle for me, because nobody can convince anybody of anything that they don't already want to believe. No, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm here merely to remind you of something that you already know, a truth that you already know, because you already know the power of the mind. Let's see if I can do this. You already know the power of the mind, and you already know what the mind can do for you. So I'm here merely to remind you of a truth that you already know. And I'm going to talk to you about 3 things: the power of the mind, the link between stress and illness, and then I'm here to give you a taste of the medicine of the power of the mind. Now, there is a clear link between stress and illness, a link so strong that it is possible to predict illness on the amount of stress in people's lives. Now, these are not my words. These are the words of Dr. O. Carl Simonton. He's a famous cancer doctor, and he has a famous, very well-known cancer center in Houston, Texas. And he has a program based on the power of the mind there in Houston, Texas. I attended his seminar. So he is convinced that there is a link between stress and illness, and he has proved it. So now, what kind of stresses do we face? You know, stress is an everyday fact of life. All of us face it. Certainly we face stress at work, if we still work. We certainly have stress over our finances, over our relationships, deadlines, the fear of terrorism these days, aging, illness, caretaking. But is it really our reaction to these outer circumstances, or rather I should say, is it really these outer circumstances that are stressful, or is it our reaction to them? Is it not our fear? Is it not our lack of confidence? The way we worry about things, our resistance to change, our expectations for the way things should turn out, or we think they should turn out, our feelings of lack and unworthiness. It's the way we react to situations that determines the stress that we feel in our lives. Because the truth of the matter is, the mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. The mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Because you can think of something scary and get your heart racing. It's what you imagine, it's what you picture in your mind that creates the fear, the worry, the doubt, the resistance, and so forth. And the mind will operate based on that. So what happens? What does the mind do? So the mind, the hypothalamus, which is in the midbrain, acts the same to real or imagined dangers. And it triggers an alarm that goes off in the body, in the brain. The brain is different than the mind. The brain is the body, a part of the body. The mind is something separate. It's not part of the brain. Okay, so the hypothalamus reacts to real or imagined dangers in exactly the same way. And what does the hypothalamus do? Well, the hypothalamus is in charge of regulating certain things in the body, certain aspects of the body, like the uptake of sugar, whether or not we sleep. Are you able to sleep when you're anxious or worried? Sexual function, fertility, for example, is affected by the amount of stress that we feel. So when couples are under a lot of stress, it's unlikely that they are going to get pregnant. Appetite, it regulates your appetite, it regulates the body temperature, and it turns on the fight or flight response. Now imagine this, I want you to picture this. If you're under stress, when stress occurs, the muscles tense, so you get ready to fight or flight, to have a fight or run away. And when that happens, the muscles of the stomach tighten and digestion stops. The eyes, the pupils of the eyes get bigger, so you're looking for danger. The heart rate increases, breathing increases. So now imagine if you held this position or this state of bodily state chronically, what do you think would happen to the body? Come on, my little guy. So, what do you think happens to breathing? What do you think happens to muscles that stay tense or that are chronically tense? Do you think it might produce a headache? Do you think it might, produce aches and pains in the body? What about the heart that is under such toll, under the toll of stress? Do you think there might be problems with the heart? Blood pressure? Digestion? What happens when digestion is interrupted? Well, the development of ulcers or other digestive problems. Bodily tissues don't repair as easily. That means if you have a wound, it's going to be harder for your wounds to repair. And it suppresses the inflammatory and immune system responses. So all of that is the effect of stress. So sugar is poorly metabolized, wounds repair poorly, appetite and body temperature problems, sexual fertility, dysfunction, heart, sleep, and muscle tension, and inflammatory and immune system problems. Come on. Normally, when primitive man, when he was fighting lions, tigers, and bears, after the fight was over, the 3 minutes after the fight or flight response, then the body returned to homeostasis. But under modern day conditions, it's a lot more difficult to do that because we face all kinds of stress, just traffic, noise, work, and all the things that I've already mentioned. So now, to understand there are a number of mind-body interventions like deep breathing, progressive relaxation, exercise of yoga and meditation, and guided imagery. So to understand the link between stress and illness, it helps to understand how the mind works. So, speaking to you as a clinical hypnotherapist, you're all listening to me now, I want you to think of yourself as having not one, but 3 minds. A higher mind, an unconscious mind, and a conscious mind. Now notice how the higher mind is at the top. Makes sense. But the unconscious mind is in the middle. There's a reason for that. And the conscious mind is at the bottom. Okay, now each of these minds, if you will, has a different function. They function differently and are in charge of different things. Using a metaphor, I can best describe the conscious mind as the software that we run on the biocomputer of our body. The unconscious mind is the hard drive of our mind, and the higher mind is the electricity that runs the whole biocomputer. Now, if you think of the consciousness has a limited amount of awareness. It's like a flashlight shining into a darkened room. So the light shines onto the present moment. So conscious awareness is involved with the present moment awareness. And in fact, it's quite limited We can pay attention, according to people who study such things, to 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information at once before going into overload. That's why our telephone numbers are 7 digits long, because that's all we can remember. So the conscious mind is like a flashlight, whereas the unconscious mind, picture that flashlight shining into the darkened room. The unconscious mind is past and present awareness. So it's aware of all of the room, the entire room that's dark, outside of the flash of light. So the unconscious mind is aware of everything that happened to you in your past, in your childhood. It can pull up all that information. So its awareness is totally unlimited by the past. So I can stand here and you can listen to me. Meanwhile, we're digesting breakfast. We're hearing sounds that occur in the other room. We're blinking our eyes. These are all the things that the unconscious mind is paying attention to and is in charge of. We don't blink consciously. We don't walk consciously. We don't know how we walk. We walk unconsciously. We do. In fact, 99% of us is unconscious. So the higher mind now, has infinite awareness. It's at the top because the higher mind is connected to what the quantum physicists call the field of infinite possibilities. So the higher mind is aware of all information that ever was or will be. So it's the part of us that knows, just knows without knowing why. In fact, the conscious mind asks why. The unconscious mind asks what if. And the higher mind doesn't ask at all. The higher mind says everything is as it should be. Because the conscious mind sees and sets up problems, like the worry that we feel when stressful situations occur. And the unconscious mind is just true to the past. Whatever reactions you have, the unconscious mind will be true to that. But the higher mind will see everything as an opportunity instead of as a problem. So the reason the unconscious mind is in the middle, why do you think the unconscious mind is in the middle? Because the unconscious mind is the gateway to the higher mind. There has to be a flow of information from, the mind is designed to work in conjunction. All three minds are designed to work together. So what you want to do is access the higher mind to solve your problems or to let go of stress or to heal or to accomplish your purpose. Let me tell you a story. In the latter half of the 19th century, the sewing machine was invented. Okay, and the man who invented the sewing machine was Silas Howell. Now, he was working on the sewing machine, inventing this machine. And interestingly enough, he didn't want to, once he invented it, he didn't want to market it because he thought it would put people out of work. But anyway, he was working on this and working on it, and he couldn't figure out how to make the sewing machine work. So he was pondering it and pondering it. And one night, he went to sleep, and he had a dream. Where was he? In the unconscious mind. Okay? And in the unconscious mind, his unconscious mind solved the problem for him. Because he was pondering on it. And he had this dream. He dreamt that he was in Africa and he was captured by these cannibals. And he was put in a pot, a great big pot, a boiling pot. And the cannibals were coming after him with spears and stabbing him as he woke up very, very frightened. But when he woke up, he looked at the dream more closely. And he saw and he realized that the spears that they were stabbing him with had what in the end? Little holes in the end. So he knew that he had to put a hole in the bottom of it so that he could write. So that is just one example of how the unconscious mind solves our problems. We cannot solve our problem. We have to think about it consciously. We can do all kinds of things consciously, but we do not solve it. The same way we don't know how we walk. When we're little and we learn how to walk, we don't know how we walk. We just picture Daddy's arms over there and walk. And then we fall down and the unconscious mind remembers and builds those muscles. Or when you work out. When you work out, we work out consciously, but we don't build muscle consciously during the workout. When do we build it? The next day when we're resting, or the 2 or 3 days later, or at night when we're sleeping. That's when problems are solved, when we let go and enter into the unconscious so that the gateway to the higher mind is open. Now this is going to show us a little bit of a review. So the conscious awareness is the software. It's like a beam of light. It's present moment. It processes 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information. And it's like the captain of the ship because it decides. It makes decisions. Consciously we decide, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. It sets up goals. But the unconscious mind, which is the hard drive, is the room outside the beam of light, is past and present awareness, is processing in an unlimited amount. It's the crew down below that operates the ship, that follows orders and carries the orders of the captain out. Then the higher mind is the electricity, infinite awareness connected to the field of infinite possibilities, and the collective unconscious. And the higher mind is like the admiral or the secretary of the Navy, connected to the president, or connected to God, or to the field of infinite possibilities. So now, conscious mind thinking is deliberate. It's quite effortful. You know, the whole purpose of being conscious is to separate ourselves and stand out as somebody special. You know, this is me, this is who I am. Separate from this guy, and separate from that guy, and you know. So conscious mind thinking is always comparing, differentiating, analyzing, separating, pigeonholing, judging, and it's very logical. It uses verbal language, you know, as opposed to pictures. It's very verbal, logical, directs and sets up problems. It's quite fixated on the past. So it's always comparing the past and the present, what it remembers of the past, and is never satisfied. And is always trying to manage a fear or a sense of unworthiness. Whereas the unconscious mind is bringing everything together. The conscious mind separates, and the unconscious mind synthesizes, brings everything together. And that's why it's saying, well, what if I put this, what if I, and we, you know, and it's coming up with solutions by putting everything together, by asking that question, what if? So the unconscious mind is the seat of creativity. It is the seat of healing. We also don't know how we heal. We only heal unconsciously. We heal when every mother knows that to put the baby to sleep, and sleep will, you know, do its work. We heal unconsciously. The unconscious mind accepts everything, and it just accepts what the conscious mind tells it to accept. It is not judgmental. It's true to the past. And it is the repository of memories, emotions, habits. So if you have the habit of smoking, it's unconscious. It's an unconscious habit. You have to get into the unconscious to break that habit, or habit of anything. So the unconscious mind is the expediter, and it responds to repetitive, emotional, vivid end result imagery. This is why you hear so much about picture what you want, you know, the law of attraction. Picture what you want, and picture it vividly, and picture it with, fill that picture with emotion, and repeat the image, repeat it to yourself over and over and over again. I am getting, in every way, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. You've heard that before. You repeat it to yourself over and over and over again, because the unconscious mind loves repetition, and anything that reminds it of being in the womb, rhythm, rocking. That's why we learn the alphabet to A, B, C, D, you know, to a song, because it loves melody and rhythm and stories and pictures and, you know, emotion. It's very, very appealing. That's why us, learned the times table by rote. We learned our spelling by rote, by repetition, right? I don't think they do that in school anymore. You know, we had to stand up and recite the times tables as fast as we could. I went to Catholic school, so we had to do that. But it really gets into your unconscious mind. And the higher mind is the guide. And the higher mind is guiding us back to wholeness. The conscious mind separates, and the higher mind unites. It harmonizes. It's unconditional, infinitely patient, humble, gentle with us, all-knowing, heals, harmonizes, transcends. It's the still small voice that we're trying to get connected to, and that we all have had an experience of. You know, I heard a voice. When we're quiet, you can't access that still small voice when you're noisy or when you're under stress. The only way to access that voice is to be still and to be quiet, as in meditation, as in guided imagery. So, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. What does that mean? So we cannot solve our problems consciously. We can only set them up consciously. We can figure out what we want to do and where we want to go. But that's not how we solve them. We solve them by letting go, by giving ourselves time to reflect, by laying down, taking a nap, by dreaming about it, by getting into another level of the mind. So before I continue and give you a taste of the medicine of mental imagery, let me pause for questions. Yes?
I understand that Thomas Edison used to take a lot of naps, and to access that unconscious mind, what he'd do is he'd hold a steel bar or something in one hand, and as he'd lose consciousness and drop that steel bar, it would wake him back up, and he would access that unconscious information, unconscious circuit in his mind, in his invention.
Yeah, I love that story. Thomas Edison only went through the 4th grade. He didn't even go to school. I mean, I think he still holds the record for the number of inventions. So, yes, Howard.
Benjamin Franklin only slept 3 hours a night and took naps, 15, 20-minute naps. That's his history also, like that.
Yeah, to get into the gateway to the higher mind. Yes.
Right up behind you.
Yes.
Say somebody has an idea and they're doing a painting, and they say when you paint, you should look for accidents. Something comes up, like
Yeah.
you spill something, and to take advantage of the accident, because that'll take you into something you didn't think about before. Is that in
Yes,
the
that's
accident would be
yes, because there are no accidents. Slips of the tongue come from the higher mind, or accidents, or goosebumps, or
changes.
Yeah, right. It comes from through the unconscious, from the higher mind. Yes. Yes.
Well, I find a lot of times that my mindset during REM sleep really does solve a lot of technical questions I have, but I always write them down.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That does get lost.
Yeah, because they say dream analysis or dream therapy is really, really good, because we have all these problems that are solved in our dreams, but they're metaphorical. The solutions come to us metaphorically. So it's pictures and so forth. And it's very difficult to remember when you wake up, to remember the state, the unconscious state of mind that you're in. So keeping a dream journal is very important, because that will help you to remember. You can remember them, at first, but then as the day marches on, you forget them, and you leave a lot of valuable information behind. Anybody else? Okay, so let me see if I can get this to... which level of thinking do you think we are using when we're feeling stressed? Well, it's obvious. It's conscious level thinking, because unless we can't be stressed in the unconscious. So when we're trapped in our conscious mind, it eclipses us from the highest level of intelligence and the widest scope of awareness, and deprives us of solving our problems. So that's why it is so important to develop a practice of, either napping or meditation or yoga or hypnosis, or in fact, I have a private practice in which I help people let go by giving them guided imagery through deep focused relaxation and guided imagery that utilizes pictures, sounds, to help them. What I do is I ask them what it is that they want to accomplish and what is it that's preventing them from accomplishing whatever it is they want to accomplish. And then I create a picture of, let's say they have an obstacle of fear. Then I give them an experience of, say, climbing a mountain and having to go through an obstacle. So the unconscious mind understands pictures and stories and rhythms and sounds and repetition. So I create a picture in which they're going through an obstacle and successfully reaching the other side, the top of the mountain or whatever it is, accomplishing their goal. And when you do that, when you're deeply relaxed, it is highly effective in helping the person, overcome their inner obstacle. It's also effective in healing. So the medicine of mental imagery restores harmony, opens the gateway to the higher mind and the unconscious mind, and initiates health and well-being. So this, on my website and also on audible.com, you can purchase a guided imagery session called 61 Points of Light. That's only about $3. It's very inexpensive. This is my top selling item, so there's something very good about this. It's sold, close to 1,000. So this is a yoga nidra meditation, and it's highly abstract. It doesn't, you don't have to. It's not specific to your problem, but you can make it specific by declaring your purpose before you do it. And the reason why, your intention before you go through this exercise. And it takes you through 61 points of light. And the light represents peace and letting go, and whatever light represents to you. Light is metaphorical for healing. So I'm going to do this exercise with you. I'm not going to take you through 61 points of light, but just about 8 points of light, and let you experience, let you have a taste of the medicine. Let's see if I can get the... Now, when you're doing guided imagery, I'm going to have to take this off. It's best if you have sound. Okay. Well, I don't know if you can hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. So just put both feet on the floor, if you don't mind, if you want to do this. Your hands on your lap. Okay, and close your eyes. And just put your awareness on the sound. All the sounds that you hear, particularly the sound of my voice. And allow the sounds to relax you. You can feel the sounds relaxing all the muscles in your body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Now I want you to imagine that you are breathing in through your belly button, and you're taking that air in all the way to the crown of your head, and then releasing it back down and out your belly button. You would do that about 8 times. And with each breath, you double your relaxation. And my voice becomes more and more relaxing. Like the voice of a teacher when you were in school and you were looking out the window, just daydreaming, and the teacher's voice kind of hypnotized you. Six. And all the way down to a very relaxing place. And now I want you to say to yourself, make a statement of intention as to the purpose of this exercise that we're about to go through, why you are doing it, what you wanted to heal, what you want to let go of. And now I'm going to ask you to imagine at the third eye, that place in between the eyebrows, a small blue star or flame, like a gas flame. As small and as perfect as you can imagine. Now you can feel it or sense it, or any way you do is fine. And just imagine that that star, that light, that sapphire blue light is spreading its healing light, the light of peace, the light of freedom, throughout your head, and doing its healing work. And now imagine that light at the base of your throat, a small blue star or flame, spreading its healing light all the way to the back of your throat, up and down your neck. And now that healing light goes to your heart center, spreading its healing all the way out to all the organs in the chest cavity, to the lungs, all the way across to the shoulders, to the joints of your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, your hands. The light, the sapphire blue light, now at the solar plexus behind the navel, spreading its healing light to all of the organs inside, down to the center of the pelvic area, and to the center of each hip joint. And that sapphire blue light is going down your legs, to your knees, to your ankles, to your toes, back up, back to the center of the solar plexus, to the base of the spine, sending its healing light all the way up the spine, bubbling up the spine, lighting up your back, coming down, back to the center of the pelvic area, back to the solar plexus, back to the heart center, to the base of the throat, to the third eye, and to the crown of your head. Now return your awareness to your breathing. And just let that sink in for 30 seconds. All the time in the world, until you hear my voice again and I will rouse you. That's right. Very good. Now in just a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And when I reach the number 3, you'll open your eyes and you'll feel very refreshed, as if you've just taken a nice long nap. 1, 2, 3. Eyes open. How was that? Give yourself a hand. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was a taste of the medicine of mental imagery. I hope I've awakened something in you. Thank you very much.